We are supposedly live. Welcome to Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom. I'm your host, Greg Galb. What number are we at? 261 now? 262? Who cares? Anyways, we're going to talk about slot cars. Let's do show and tell. I have a show and tell, but I'll let people go ahead of me. Garth has had his hand up for a while, and then we'll get to Mike. Go ahead, Garth.
I got a couple of cars to show. Great. You guys see that okay?
Yep.
Okay, this is a continuation of my Ferrari F40 chassis PLA. This is version 5, okay? Fifth. I just got this on Monday. Jeremy was kind enough to print it for me, okay? And this is the one that's got the 2 posted body screws in the back, and it's got a revised I-beam and a couple of other revisions here and there. And I'll go through the pictures, and there's a whole bunch of pictures, and at the end of that, I have another car I want to show, but after if anybody has any questions, okay. Okay, here we go. It's another picture of the top of it. Okay. It's another picture. This is the back where the screws are. And then this is something that Greg had asked me about last week. The 2 holes in the end of the chassis. Remember you asked me what they were for? And this is these are 2 tapped holes that are in that version 5 of the chassis, and they're tapped for 2 M2 screws. And that's what it looks like. And now while we're on this photo, another one of the changes on this chassis was this thing we talked about last week, which was that little rib underneath the bushings here. And this, I don't know how it worked in Mike's chassis, but in my chassis, it's awesome. I mean, it really, really worked well. The back of this chassis is like rock solid, you know. And so that's another shot of those tapped holes. Okay. You see they're just deep enough to put about a 3 or 4 millimeter screw into. And that is what goes in there. Now, I haven't made a 3D printed part for it, but I will at some point. This is just a piece of ABS that I fabricated and what this does is once the motor is pushed down into the chassis, let me go back one, okay. You know, this makes it easy to push it down, and it doesn't do any cracking or anything because it's PLA. And once that's done, this little plastic plate sits across here and screws down and pushes on the very top of the part of the D that's on the end bell of the thing, and it locks in the right side of the chassis, just like the left side of the chassis is locked in with screws into the can. Okay, so it's pretty rock and roll. There it is from the top. Show you what it looks like from the top. And then here's a shot. This is not a very good focus, but you get an idea what's happening here. This is the regular D shape of that. And then where it rounds off here, this just touches on the top of it. Okay. So the 3D printed part that I'm going to use for this will be done in like a log of 10 parts, and it'll probably have a little knob on it so that it pushes down on the top of this little piece as it sticks into the chassis. And this was one little tricky thing about it was this is a Professor motor bushing, which is about 1/4 of an inch wide. And the KC bushing that you could use in here is exactly the same size. But so I only had a small amount of material that I could make that for that tapped hole. So that's a little tricky. And one of the things you can see that I stopped it here. One of the things I'm going to do on the next version is I'm going to make this come down a little bit because I got the space to do it just so that it's a little easier for me to tap. Okay. Let's keep going on that. That's showing it upside down on the back of the chassis. This shows the mounting, the mounting, the two posts in the back, one in the front. Again, that shows it. All right. We've already got a bunch of different changes that I'm going to make to this guy. One of them is eliminating this altogether. I don't really need that. There's the device that goes into the body. Okay. And in this particular case, I didn't really even glue it in or anything. I took the paint off the edge of the body post, and then I sanded the inside of the hole on this 3D PLA piece, and just enough to make it fit down in there. In fact, it actually is tight. I could just kind of screw it on. Okay. And go to the next photo here on that guy. That shows you a little bit more of, and it's just above where the interior / motor area is. Okay. You got plenty of room for a screw in it. Okay. And one other thing I'm going to do that I didn't do this time is, if you can see it, it's a little tough to see. That's the body post as it comes through. And there's, I don't know, maybe about from the bottom of that part down to this part is about 3/8 of an inch. And I'm just going to make a styrene tube spacer on that so that I can push it down over the post and then use that for the exact location of where when it goes on. Okay. But this worked out pretty well. Okay. I'm surprisingly well for the first chance at it. And I really want to credit Jeremy for, the prints that he did, because they were just really, really excellent. Okay. That's what the car looks like with the body on it. Okay. Anybody got any questions about it at all, or?
You could probably modify that 1 to 2 body post adapter to just have a slightly taller tube in the center, so you don't need a separate styrene shim. I mean, you could do it just for your prototyping, but if that were to be, updated and printed again, just make that center one a little bit taller, or, the amount taller it needs to be in order for you to just go ahead and push it on.
Let me think about that. Okay, that means I would have to, yeah, actually that would probably work, because I can have it flat. Yeah, that would probably be okay.
Yeah.
And very, very similar. Okay. But the point that I was trying to make with how I was going to do that was, that way I don't have to worry about the fit of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Down in that area. So I just,
Pop it on.
like either way I do it. And you know what? The other thing, Greg, while we're talking about it real quick, the other thing I thought about doing also was adding putting a block on here, okay, and going backward and putting a M2 screw tap set screw in there, so I could make that loose if I wanted to and set screw it on there. So there might be a couple different versions of it, but like I said, I was really quite enamored with how well it turned out. Okay, it just for the first shot out of the box. Okay, and it did exactly what I wanted to do, and that was, and I put, let me go back just one more time to show you what's on there. See, this is the back end here. And in order to get that body up where I wanted to, I put a little plastic washer on there. And then this is a 1 millimeter red silicone foam washer. Okay. And the way that it works is that, I had a problem with the Ferrari bodies where they would, especially in the rear, where they would canter one way or another. Well, once I put this down onto the foam washers, I can adjust the two screws in such a manner that it makes the body perfectly straight. Okay.
Yeah.
Yet it still has float because it's kind of floating on the foam. So that was pretty another kind of a cool surprise that happened. So any other questions about it? Now, if not, I'll go to the quick next one I got. Okay, all right. The next one I got is another car that we're testing. And this is an older slot.it M8D McLaren car, and it's been upgraded with some. This is the very brand newest wheels that I've gotten from a new SLS nylon printer. Okay, that I haven't used before, and they are just absolutely outstanding what they did. And these are what I call the flush back wheels. Okay, in other words, they'll fit on a car that doesn't have room for a rear mounted hub to stick back into the car. Okay, so they're a little shorter in their barrel length down the center, but the rear hub where the set screw is actually inside the wheel. Okay, and these came out really quite nice. This is a different kind of spin on the other ones I've done. See how it's got a little curvature to it and stuff, and it just really nice. And the vendor, I mean, God, once I put the aluminum inserts on there and put it on my little truer machine that I have, and it was just, oh my God, it basically didn't need any truing at all. It was just really, really quite good. And that's the underneath of the car. Okay, and it's pretty much stock slot.it. Okay, the stock slot.it motor, and it's got the rotating motor pod in it. Okay, and then this is this is an older. Actually, I've got quite a few of these left around. This is my older, the very first guide thing that I did. This is a non-screw in, but it's a push in or snap in guide. Okay, and we're using that to test it. And this thing goes like the wind, like the other ones have. So that's about all I got today. So
Looks good. Anybody have any questions for Garth? Okay, moving on. If you think of something later, feel free to chime in. And we'll just segue straight into Mike because I'm sure he has Garth related things to talk about.
Yes, I do.
Oh,
So-
can I say one thing? I forgot the most important thing. Okay. I wasn't real happy with the straightness of the chassis, of that particular chassis, but it did break the track record.
Nice.
So it's hard to complain.
Okay. So this is Garth's chassis in the Policar Maserati. You can see here the issue with the rear wheel.
Yep.
There's about 1.5 millimeters there. I had a little bit of a problem. First off, with it, I broke the end off. You can see the mounting there that's broken off. When I was working on it, the chassis was almost completed with the bushings and stuff in. It went in pretty well, other than the wheelbase problem in that. It's a lot of faffing around to tap all holes and stuff like that. And I had some trouble with clearancing the rear axle on it, and putting together the PLA version, I'm having a little trouble with that one too. And that one I didn't have to ream out for size at all. So it's a little close. I had to file the motor at the rear. If you look at this one, right at that point where my finger is, I had to file that off the back in order to clearance the rear axle and have enough so it doesn't touch. So it seems like it's a little bit close on both the PLA.
Wow, that's bizarre because that's the same exact dimension on all of my chassis. I've never had that problem.
Yeah.
What kind of bushings are you using, and what the hell are you doing to the hole?
Yes.
And even if you have
on the PLA one that I just got from Greg, I did nothing to it. I didn't make the holes bigger, didn't ream them out, nothing. The bushing, bushings drop right in with no problem. The size is fine.
Well,
But
another
there's-
thing that I should tell you, Mike, is sometimes it helps if you drill out your motor screw holes a little bit so that you got a little, so you can
Yeah.
push the motor back a little bit. Did you do that at all?
Right, I haven't done that. That's
Okay,
one of the
because you
things
can
I have
mesh.
not.
Sometimes you have a little bit of a mesh like issue right there. If you just, shit, I've even had it where all I've done is like stick a screwdriver in the back and push on the motor, then tighten the screws down, and that made it mesh better. So.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna ask is how the mesh was, because if you have
it was,
clearance motor,
Especially with
the
that
mesh
white,
is tight.
yeah, it would be. I don't know
what
because I tested it.
what are the bushings you're using? You're using the,
I'm using Colford standard one-sided bushings, and I'm also using the stock ones that are in the slotted car. So, it's a quality bushing that's used for the metal car racers at standard size that are excellent quality. So I'm not worried about the quality of the
I'm talking
bushing.
about, what is the diameter of the inner, the out, where you're pushing it in? Is it? I think that hole is like used, the two bushings that I recommend are 0.187. Okay, is what they.
He said they dropped right in. He didn't need to do any filing.
Yeah, I didn't have to ream or anything at all. So
No?
I think it might be what he was talking about with the motor fixing screws. Like,
what did
Put
you
the-
say is 0.187?
Yeah, 0.187.
I've
Both
got
of them.
0.1800 exactly.
No, that's even smaller. That's too small for that hole. Really?
well, he's just gonna glue them in.
The ones in the slotted car that I pull out are 0.1860.
Yeah, that's pretty close to 187. Interesting.
So at any rate, I'm going to have to clearance the screws a little bit and move the motor back and I'll have to file this point right here where my finger is. I'll have to file that off and clean that out so there's a little movement backwards towards the front of the car.
Yeah.
And clearance that a little bit. And I'll also be able to get a little mesh. Anyway, I did some weights on the cars when they're fully set up. The original car, as in this, with a chip, and I don't remember whether I had put any weight in or anything like that, weighs 8151. And this car, with 4.5 grams of weight in it, weighs 82.6. So, pardon me. That's not correct. Where's my other car? I'm hiding another car here somewhere. Oh, there it is.
Some people prepare for show and tell.
Yeah, well, some don't. Enough said. Actually, it was right there. Just I'd moved stuff. This car is the slotted version of the Maserati Group GT4, and that weighs 82.6. And that does have weight in it from tuning. This one is 73.45 with 4.5 grams of weight in it. So it's a lot lighter. Weight balance is originally without anything but the chip in it. It's 65% on the rear. I've got the 4.5 grams in the front. That brought it to 62% on the rear. So it could use a little more in the front. And I'm testing it out. It posted a time of 7.658 on my track, which is a good time. It's comparable to some of the faster cars that I've got. And the the blue car with the original chassis and the chip in it, and I don't believe any weight or anything in it, was 8.1 seconds. So, you know, it was pretty decent.
Yeah.
And there's still more. I will say that driving it without any weight, I drove it without any weight in it first, and it was touchy. You know, it's of course the lightweight chassis raised the center of gravity, and it didn't feel quite as planted, as well as the fact that it's changed from a inline to a sidewinder position. So, you know, you got a lot of swing weight at the back. So it would grip pretty well, but would have sudden breakaway. Putting the weight in the front brought it much more in line, but it's still faster than the Polycar one that I've got, the GT4.
What about drivability, Mike? Was it more fun to drive or worse, better?
Well, see, you could feel on my, that's usually a good indicator, like a good car. Without any, it didn't tend to wash out as easily. In fact, not as easily as the Polycar versions of it. I mean, pardon me, the slotted versions of it. So, you know, it's a step in the right direction.
Can you explain wash out for us, Mike?
Rear end tail out.
Yeah, stepping out. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And it also didn't lose the front end like the slotted one did. The front end on the slot one I've got, the GT4, is a little fussy when it goes into that corner. It's the Maserati has never been a great car overall. It's never been.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
It's not the best car in the world, but this is probably one of the better versions of it. So at any rate, I need some more testing on it, and I have not tested the PLA chassis yet. But it's a pretty good car. If it's running 7.6s on my track record is 6.9, and that's with a full bore oxygen hypercar. So, you know, it's running really, really well. So it's an impressive chassis design. I'll see how the weight goes on it, and I'll get a report next week on that. And I'll also switch the chassis out to the PLA version. I'm also going to drop a standard slotted motor into the blue one that I've got. That's the original chassis, because the slotted motor is very wimpy. The red car feels like it's got too much motor for the chassis at this point, because it's really, really, really hard. But, I'm not done tuning it yet, so I have to sort of reserve judgment. It's just preliminary. So since
are you planning on moving the axle back or moving the motor box back 1.5 grams, like you said?
I want to test out the chassis first to see what the flexibility is, because if it's too flexible handling wise, then I want to have a little bit of beef up before I have another one printed. So I've got enough clearance that I can test it and find out, and the 1.5 millimeters won't make any difference in that regard. I'm more interested in the chassis flex at this point to see how it goes, and see how I can improve the handling. Go ahead.
When you extend that wheelbase to correct it to fit the body shell, you're going to have an even more rearward weight bias.
Yep.
Your weight bias fundamentals are coming from the fact that you've got that motor in a sidewinder configuration. It's a fundamental of sidewinders with the S-can motors. I know you know this, but it's very, very, very difficult to get to anywhere near the 60/40 or 59/41s that you say you like to run in your cars.
Mm-hmm.
You're not trying hard enough, Mike. I've had a 75-gram car with a 60/40 weight distribution and an S-can in sidewinder configuration. That was last year's McLaren 720 GT3.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be done. It's not easy, though. You've got to pay attention to every element of everything that's going on at the back.
You got to remember, this is with the stock body.
Yeah, yeah. And
Nothing done to it
the
at
weight
all.
distribution of the body shell is probably one of the reasons why that body style is not one of the favored body styles in the first place.
Right.
But you can, of course, measure the distribution of the chassis without the body and then
Sure.
put the body and reassess and say, well, in that case, then that body shell's adding, I don't know, 24 grams to the car. And X amount of that is going on the back tires, and so much is going on the front tires. And that relieves you of having to do the weight distribution on just the shell.
True.
You know, you can do the resultant of it on the car, which may not
Yeah.
be the same.
Yeah. Um, I may try that and see what happens. In the past, I've tried balancing just the chassis and it hasn't worked quite as well.
No, I
Uh,
agree. What matters is the total
right.
all
The
result. Yeah,
total on. Okay.
yeah.
But yeah, if I get the chassis balance right, then I should be able to modify the body or whatever I. But
The
in
thing
this
to
case,
do
I
it,
was looking mainly for, just using all the parts that you can get in the original car, adding in the rear gear, and you could have and well, you'd have to change a pinion, of course, because the pinion is going to be off on the inline car. But you could take the original $32 car, put an axle and a gear on it, basically, and and this is also on the original tires. I haven't put G25s on it yet, so it's basically the stock car out of the box with just the chassis and the gear changed, and you have a full second improvement in the performance
oh yeah,
just by doing that. So,
yeah, yeah.
well, I guess yeah, actually, you'd have to do the guide too. I forgot about that.
The thing about your adding weight in the front of a car to change its weight distribution,
Mhm.
what we must remember as advanced thinkers in this department is that even though we do change the distribution, we don't actually change the amount of weight at the back.
Right,
The swing weight that was always
right,
there, as you refer to it, is still there.
yep,
In fact, it depends on where you put your ballast, but unless you put the ballast in a horizontal line with your guide,
yep,
some of it is going to manifest on the back.
yep,
So every bit that you put in the front, even though you think it's majority, it is majority, some of it is still appearing at the back as additional weight.
yep,
And so it's very, very difficult to fundamentally change what you're
yeah.
playing with. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as
What,
modifying go, you're restricted. The interior is fairly heavy on this, and it's pretty rearward biased. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's an additional aspect of it. You did cut a little weight because if you look at the rear, there's a piece missing out of the body
Oh, yeah.
there because that piece is gone.
Diffuser.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the diffuser is gone. So,
Mike, what spur gear are you using?
I'm using you know what? I don't know.
Well, is it a bronze core or a aluminum core?
On which?
On the spur,
On the inline one? It's a spur gear because it's
on the
and
spur
it's
fine.
gear.
I think it's a slotted spur gear.
Yeah, but even the spur gears have different metals for the core.
Oh,
Aluminum.
it's an aluminum.
Aluminum and black, is it? So
Pardon me?
Is it 32 tooth?
I didn't count. I really didn't. It's one of
Is
these
the
things
plastic-
that I had it sitting there and I put it in and it fit.
What
And I'll
color is
have
the
to check.
plastic? What color is the plastic of the spur?
Black.
There you go.
It's got probably 1832. So assuming that's what it's designed.
No,
for,
it's 11. It's 11 pinion.
No, I meant the spur.
18
18
diameter and
diameter.
32 teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
If
Okay.
I may
So that's
speak
what
to
I
the
do.
issue that you've just discovered with the motor pod, it sounds like there could be some very slight differences between what Garth gets printed and what you've had printed by Greg.
I tested the prints. I tested prints before I printed a bunch for Mike.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I didn't have the interference issue.
Oh, that's weird.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know why.
No explanation
I
for
mean,
that.
I didn't test a whole lot of combinations of things. I took basically all of the hardware out of the slotted Maserati and put it into
Yeah.
the printed chassis. The only difference was the rear axle, because I was using the ball race bearings for the rear axle. I had to use an undersized axle, which required me to also use an undersized wheels. But it wasn't that undersized. I mean, we're talking about, you
Difference
know,
between slotted and NSR, aren't you?
exactly. That's the difference that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is that difference right there? So,
Yeah.
uh, between not, I mean, I could see light between the can of the motor and the axle, right?
Yeah.
So that is more than the difference between a slotted and an NSR axle.
Yes, it is.
Some
So
sometimes I use those the slot dot it ground out the axle that's got the middle
Yeah,
ground.
the center part is ground down.
If you get a certain kind of a can dimension that's a little bit bigger, those help quite a bit.
If
Yeah.
I may
Yeah.
suggest that the one of the most lightweight axles that's smaller in diameter, and B, not going to be attracted to your motor magnet in the motor can. It's perfect for sidewinders. It's a slotted titanium. Sorry,
Yeah.
slotting plus titanium.
Hollow?
No, I don't think there is a hollow titanium.
That'd be hard to do. Titanium's pretty brittle.
Yeah.
I've got one right here, look.
Here's a question for you, Mike. The motor that you're putting into the printed chassis, is that the one from the Polycar,
No,
or you're putting in a more standard slotted motor in there?
right. I couldn't put this Polycar one in because it couldn't be mounted and it was moving around.
Well,
So
I mean, you can use
could
glue, but
I could
physically,
potentially glue it.
I'm curious. I was thinking it was the Polycar motor, but I forgot that had the screw issue.
Yeah.
But maybe the Polycar motors were cheaper and
No, I
bulkier.
think that's a good motor. That's a good motor to use. That's the white end build slot dot it motor, right?
No, not in the Polycar ones. It's a lower powered motor.
No, but I mean in the one you're using in
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a standard Polycar white end bell.
Yeah, I got a lot of those. Those are great. I mean, they
Yeah.
fit pretty good.
Yeah, I'm especially perplexed because we're talking about the PLA chassis where you didn't even have to remount the bushing holes; they just dropped in. So it's not like we can't blame inaccuracy of the reaming process on the axle touching the motor.
Yeah.
Well, when you say remount, what do you mean? You mean you're using a reamer?
You're using some
No.
kind of tool to make the hole bigger, whether that's a rat tail file or a drill bit or a reamer or whatever. You're using something to make the hole slightly bigger so that the thing you're trying to fit in there fits in there.
Okay, all right.
That's how I'm using the
Because
word.
On mine, all I do is I use a half round, a little die file, Greg, half round, and I just the top where you get the little spoogey stuff. I just
Yep,
put it.
I get it. Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what style of printing you adopt. I mean, by that, I mean, Yona and I have been printing with MJF technology, and we are finding that tolerances, even within what they specify, which is very, very good, are still not really slot car great. There's always little things in places that just don't quite work perfectly, and it's always a good idea if you can to try to design for the potential for adjustments. I mean, if you need to remove a little material, that's far better than I find that's far better than needing to add any, because you can't really add any. There's
That's
nothing there. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
exactly right. that is correct.
So yeah, you're always thinking about that. But the other thing we like to include is, the U shape on the end, but on the front face of the motor where the bushing is held, and you've
Yeah.
created a U shape in your motor pod to accommodate
Mhm.
that. There's never any harm in making that a little wider than necessary, because that's never going to go anywhere. You're not really doing anything by supporting it because you've got two motor screws that are holding it anyway.
Yeah.
So what we tend to do is design those motor screws with a very slight horizontal slot to them, so that if the holes are not always in the same place in the motor, or you want to be able to adjust the mesh just very slightly, you've got the horizontal slottedness already in the design.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see. I just tested one of the
That's like,
PLAs without any
that's tu-
bushings in it.
that's tuning 101.6. Okay, I mean, that goes without saying, you know what I mean?
Oh, well, it's
Yeah.
not in your design, so.
Mike Mauer knows that already, you know? Come on, Mike.
Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to finish it off. I clearanced it by filing because it was easy, and I had already broken one chassis and spent, couple hours mucking around with it. So I put it together and it ran well. Is there more left? You bet. Moving the mesh around probably would change it. One thing I will say, when you're working with the PETG, it's much more susceptible to moving the bushings around when you're tightening up the screws on the motor. So you have to do it gradually, and also set up your rear axle in it when you've got the motor mounted already, for sure.
So what
you
you're
don't.
saying is fastening the motor into the motor pod is actually reshaping the motor pod.
Correct.
How did
The
that,
PETG is very flexible.
how about that rib in the back, but didn't that help, but as far as underneath the bushings? Yeah.
It's hard to tell at this point whether it made any difference at all, but the
Okay.
back end feels really solid. So any solidity that goes across there is going to be an improvement for sure. So I think that it probably did a good job in there. But like I said, I'll have to spend this week. It's a time process, and I'll set up both chassis, the PLA and the PETG, and then drop the body off as is on each one of them to compare. It's not an easy thing. I'll have to pull a motor out and everything like that. So it's not a simple process. You think, oh, we'll just compare one to the car, just change the chassis. Well, changing a chassis invites a lot of changes that can be done, setup wise. So I'll try and keep it as even as possible, and keep the motors the same once they're clearanced, and I'll check the RPMs and stuff like that, and make sure that it's as close as possible to another car.
You might want to also try the recommended bushing, okay, too. That might help.
Okay, Garth.
Well, I mean, seriously, why would somebody tell you, please use X, if they wanted you not to please use X? They wanted you to just go off and use some fucking piece of shit that you had laying on the floor.
All right. Let's not incite anything about Colford's bearings. If you want to talk to anybody about Colford's quality, just ask Chris Walker. There's no indictment.
I'm not talking about Colford. I'm talking about you. Okay.
Okay. The line has been stepped on, I think, at this point. So, Garth, did you put your hand up to add commentary to Mike's, or did you have something? Okay, so you're all done.
No, I
Mike,
have a question. I have a question, but it's not for Mike. I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to.
That's
rain on
okay.
your, I didn't mean to rain. I didn't mean to storm on your parade. I meant to rain on your parade, but not your. I would like you to use the damn right bushings, but that's why I said that. Okay, I got
some then.
This is directed at Greg. Greg,
Yes, sir.
I got a PLA straightening question. Okay, as far as You know how you straighten a chassis with the
Magnets.
and all that stuff in the thing and the stove and all that. And you were mentioning something about the PLA, flattening a PLA chassis. And you were mentioning the temperature not to exceed, okay, last week. And I was just wondering if you could,
I the grain of salt here is that I've not done it myself.
okay,
Right? So I have no experience to speak from. The only experience I have to speak from is the temperature I use in my dehydration machine when I'm making sure that the filament is nice and dry before I print it. And if I exceed 120 Fahrenheit, the PLA gets softened, right? So
oh,
in
okay,
order to straighten it, you'll probably want to exceed 120,
okay,
but I don't know what the upper limit is that you don't want to go straight to fluid,
oh,
right?
okay,
PLA has what they call a it's not really the glass transition temperature. I think that's the 120, 125 or whatever it is. But in a printer, in order to print well with PLA, you generally want to be somewhere between, 190 and 210, 220. Depending on the printer, sometimes you want to be higher, sometimes you want to be lower. But if you get up that high, then it's definitely turning into more of a liquid. So I would say probably don't want to go above 150. So somewhere between 120 and 150 is gonna be softening it enough to make it pliable and make it straight, and so it'll straighten out, but not so much that it'll just droop under its own weight or liquefy.
okay, I got you. Now the generalized question or the way that that I've done it in the past, by things I've watched and stuff is I take the chassis and I put it on a steel plate with magnets and I put it in a vat of water that I've, gotten fairly hot and then stick it in an oven that's was 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. And then push it in there and turn the oven off and then let it run, let it cool on its own for 6 hours. So
Yeah, that's basically the slotted recommendation, and that's perfectly fine for ABS injection molded chassis.
okay.
ABS has a much higher melting point.
Okay. So
So you
what
can,
if I used
if you wanted to repeat the process with PLA, I would say
uh
that before you pour your hot water in, measure its temperature and make sure
yeah,
it's not
yep,
above 150 or something like
above
that.
150. Okay.
And
All right. So
then the reason for the oven is to slow down the cooling process. So you can leave
okay.
the oven out of it for your first test and just, you know, more or less completely cover the chassis with the
Okay.
warm water, and then just let it cool out in the open and see what
Okay.
happens.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So if I were experimenting for the first time, if I were doing this for the first time with PLA, I'd probably do exactly like you do with, magnets down on a steel plate, put it all in a dish that's tall enough to be submerged, boil up some water, put a thermometer in there and watch it until it gets down to 150, and
Yeah.
then pour it into the dish, making sure not to pour it on the chassis, and then
Yeah.
submerge with enough water that it's submerged, and then just let it cool. And watch it real close. As soon as you pour the water in and submerge it, look at it with some good vision or glasses on to see if you can visually see if anything is drooping, like the front motor mounts and stuff, or the front axle mounts. Because if you can visually see something droop, then
You're in
stop right
trouble.
there. Throw that chassis
Yeah.
away and do it again, but at a lower water temperature. But if you can't see
Okay,
anything
good.
visually getting, droopy or whatever, then let it cool and then see if it's straight.
You can always start too cold, and if it
Yeah.
fails, just ramp it a bit higher next time.
That's
I
true.
was suggested 113 F. I've just converted the suggestion I got when I was running a lot of PLA. I never flattened a PLA chassis myself either, but I was told that if I wanted to try and do it, start at 113, 45C.
45C.
Greg, I can't remember the word where the material absorbs water,
Hydroscopic.
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 That's what I was
is.
gonna say. Is I would
I
not put
would, I
water
would
on it.
say, watch it, because I've had this experience with NSR chassis. If you flatten them in water, they get softer.
Mm.
Oh,
You
yeah.
may want to try flattening it in water and then flattening without water and see if you notice a difference. Because on the NSR chassis I did in water, it got flexible like a noodle. It flattened, but it got flexible. So that
How
made it additional.
how I did it is I put it on a saw blade that was flat, 10-inch saw blade, magnetized it down, and I stuck it on the dash of my car for the day and just let it settle to where it was, and then it was fine. Because
Yeah.
PLA, you can't make products for your car in PLA because just sitting in that heat, it'll start to droop and melt. And that was perfect
Yeah.
for what I wanted, and then no water was added. But
PLA, nylon, they're all the same. They're all hydroscopic.
That's why I like using the dehydrator itself to
You
flatten
can
my-
dehydrate them. Yeah, yeah. You can nylon. I don't know about. I should obviously you can PLA because that's what you do before you print it. So
You
even
can't
if it
do
has
it.
been wet, it's
Everything is-
recoverable.
Everything is hygroscopic to its own degree, and everything can be dehydrated to a certain degree. But each material is more or less hygroscopic. Like PLA is very low on the hygroscopy scale. Nylon is very high on that scale. Nylon absorbs moisture much more quickly than PLA does. So for sure, anything nylon is going to get softer, but that's also what helps it be strong, right? The drier it is, the less flexible it is. So it prints better when it's dry, but once it's printed, once the thing is printed, it's okay for it to absorb moisture from the air. You buy a trimming line for your, weed eater.
Yeah,
That's
trimmer.
nylon, right? And it's fully hygroscoped. It's what, it's gotten all the water from everywhere by the time you put it on your weed whacker. But that's what gets it the resiliency it needs to be a successful weed whacking medium, I guess. So what will happen to PLA when it gets soaked? I don't know. Like Jeremy said, it works just as good to get it warm for a while and let it cool down slowly. That's the goal, right? Whether you use water or air. Like I might, if I were to try it for the first time, I might just put it in my dehydrator, right? Put it in my machine that I use to dehydrate the material, turn up the temperature maybe a little bit more than I use for dehydration purposes, and then see if that does the trick. Put it, set the timer for a few hours and then take it out when it's done. Maybe no water is necessary.
So Jeremy, your experiment with putting in your car, was that during the winter, spring, summer?
no,
Not
I
in
don't
Nevada.
remember. It's not in Nevada. Yeah, you come on, do on. I guess times will vary then. Nevada time is probably 1 hour, whereas I can do 8.
In
Well,
season.
Dewan fully knows that, Las Vegas sun can do what can do to his lot car.
Oh yeah.
So maybe the answer is for PLA is put it on a piece of plate with some magnets on it and put your oven at 113, no water. Just throw
Possibly.
it in there,
Yeah.
and let
Possibly.
it roll. Make
Whatever
the change.
works is good. What works.
Actually,
just
like
got to
Dwayne was
discover
saying,
it.
start at the low end and increase temperature until it does
See what
you want.
happens, And then if it screws up, you can blame Wayne.
Or
Times
me,
will
or
vary by
yourself.
manufacturer. That's the disclosure. Times vary by manufacturer of each oven.
All right, let's get back
Yeah.
to Mike. Are you all done, Mike?
Yes, I am
Okay.
finished.
All right. Jeremy, you put your hand back down. Do you still want to do something?
Yeah, I have something.
Go
All
ahead.
right. So I've been working on building my own routed test track, and I come across where I need tools, and then the tools are insanely expensive. sometimes. So the first tool I wound up making for myself, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, was my own braid roller, just using a 3/32 axle. And then you can roll your braid and keep it, pressed down into the thing. If you want to add a little weight, you can put weight in the, well, I can't really show it here, but you can add weight to the top, put the lid back on if you want to add some sand or maybe some shot. And then I was like, well, since I'm going to do that part of it, I might as well put another end so you can do it on a mop handle and have a longer reach across the
Nice.
table. So anyway, I thought that was a little, because like some of these rollers they're like $70 for a
Yeah.
braid roller. And I thought that's kind of steep. I mean, just for me, it's kind of steep. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. But anyway, I'm still waiting for braid. I can't find any place that has braid available right now. So that's my problem
Really?
right now. Yeah, I
Slot car
wanted to get
corner?
the slot car corner was sold out of their 3/16 braid. So I was like, and then I was going to buy some from China, but the tariff right now was like, it costs more to import it than it did to buy it. And I was like, oh, now I'm kind of stuck. So I'll figure it out. Anyway, new tool. I don't know what to do with it or if I should. Yeah.
It's still braid.
I mean, it's a braid roller. It's a useful tool. I mean,
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
that's what
will you make tens
I
of dollars? Probably.
easily,
Easily.
easily.
Save
But
70 right away. So
that's where I'm at right now. Yeah, if anybody knows any good location for braid cheap, let me know. Cool. Thank you.
All right. Moving on. I'll do mine. Make sure I'm not spotlighting anybody. Okay. And speaking of making tens of dollars, I may or may not ask for any money. Concept I've been talking about on and
yes,
off.
yes.
Finally got my round to it, and this is prototype number 1. I had been making things needlessly complicated, and after speaking to my mechanical engineer son, got a much better idea for accomplishing the intended task. If you don't know what you're looking at, this is a Carrera Digital D132/D124 wireless plus controller, trigger, slot car controller, handle adapter print. So as I mentioned, this is prototype number 1. Actually worked pretty good for a first prototype. And changing pictures, another view of it. This is prototype number 2 and the exploded view. So you can see it's just a simple single lever trigger. You take the thumb pad off of your controller. You take the side panels off of the controller. The little extension onto the plunger, and then you clip it all together. And the main difference between prototype number 1 and prototype number 2, if you're a Carrera Digital Wireless Plus user, you probably saw this right off the bat. Prototype number 1 has no room whatsoever to push the little code button or see the little charge light, which I completely forgot about until I put it together and realized, hey, you need access to that button. So prototype number 2 puts a big scallop in there, and now you can access that button more easily, just enough for a finger. I also did a 2-finger trigger version because I prefer 2-finger triggers. So single finger and 2-finger trigger options available. The biggest hurdle that had been dogging me for this entire time that I had this concept was how to hold the controller in the 3D printed contraption. My first idea was, take the guts out of the controller and put it into a 3D printed contraption, but people don't like to take things apart and void warranties and all that stuff. Then it was like, well, how am I going to clamp the controller into the print, to hold it steady while you're using it? And at one point I remembered that some dude had designed 3D printable replacements for these plasticky, flexible plastic stuff because they are actually known to degrade like their tires do and start to leak whatever bizarre chemicals come out of those things. So he designed 3D printed ones so you could do your own colors and everything. And I'm like, wait a minute, if I just design a thing that goes into those same spots, I can just hold the controller from the side using those sockets. So that's basically what this wing shape is it goes into the side. You've already seen this in the pictures, and then picture of me holding it, and a
Greg,
video of
it
me
looks
putting
like a prop for the next Batman movie.
Yeah, you don't want one in your luggage when the police pull you over.
Yeah, they might think it's a sex toy. They're probably not going to be worried about it doing it other than maybe shooting darts. But yeah, there is the concept, and I'm ready to share it and or sell it. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do. Before I do the sharing or whatever, does anybody have any suggestions? Like, you see some glaring thing that I've missed?
Well, to put the two halves together, they snap together?
Yes. I designed little compression clips that go into
Right.
the holes on either side. So a single clip has the
So
compression.
to prevent the clips from failing, have you thought about just maybe having holes that align up with some sort of fasteners?
Well, the reason I did clips in the first place rather than just say buy these screws and put it together is because I didn't want to tell people to buy screws. I've done that for most of my contraptions. Oh, you got to buy this kind of hardware to do it how I designed it. I wanted to be able to say fully 3D printed, no need to buy any hardware, and the clips work pretty good. You know, it holds together real well. I also designed slots in the places on the shell near the clips, so you can do a little twisty twist to pop it back open if you decide to change triggers or whatever.
Just one opportunity that you might have missed,
What?
and this is just for fun.
Yeah.
Would have been to have 3D printed a complete fist that held the controller.
As a controller holder, basically.
It's basically replicate the human hand that holds and the fingers that would wrap around the Carrera and make it look like
the Incredible Hulk hands.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, no, that would be silly. I'm not gonna do that.
No, but it would be great to see.
Did you think about
Sure.
Does it?
to activate the or actuate the lane change button?
Well, one of the things that I dislike about the Carrera plunger controller design is that you pretty much have to use the same hand to push the plunger down with your thumb and actuate the lane change with your finger. And doing these things accurately with one hand is very challenging. And I'm sure somebody who does it with Carrera constantly does not feel that that's a challenge. I don't like doing it that way, so the actuation of the button is with your other hand, which is much more comfortable for most other pretty much every other digital racing system. You're holding the controller with your driving hand, and then you're using your other hand to press whatever button you need to press on the thing. So this is fairly easy. You just put your other hand over top of the button and press it down whenever you need to change lanes.
Perfectly good sense. Yeah.
I do
So
like to overcome the fact that the trigger has a rotational action while as a plunge, a straight line plunge, and you've actually covered that with that slot pivot. That's neat.
Yeah, the original design was a rack and pinion system that required the whole thing to be much longer and hang off the back of it even more, which pretty much eliminated the possibility of this ever happening. And I really wanted to be able to have people just put it on the charger and not worry about it. It's still a little precarious, but I shortened the handle a little bit to make it better. And, with some clever print infill density manipulation, you could, make it even better. But it stands. Just don't blow on it.
Greg,
Go ahead,
Greg,
Jimmy.
when you pull the trigger and you pull it all the way, so the controller now is at 100%.
Yes, sir.
Is there a space between the trigger and the handle?
A very small amount. I didn't take a
My
picture.
point, I guess, was that you could pull it too hard and break it and maybe put a little bump stop on there. So when it hits the bump stop, it's at full power on the throttle, on the controller.
That's worth looking at. Let me.
So there would be no way to pull it further and then actually break the trigger.
Yeah. Let me just show what it currently does. So with the single finger version, it pretty much stops just, I don't know, maybe a millimeter away from the opening in there. And this one with the two finger is pretty much the same. So it's not actually touching the casing.
Yeah, pretty much does it on its own.
But it's not going any further. The trickiest part, which is why this plunger adapter thing is so long, is getting a good finger rotation amount, so you're not going too far away or not close enough or whatever, and you're not losing any motion, right? Like the plunger is going all the way down when I pull the trigger, and it's being pushed, and the trigger is pretty much being pushed all the way back when the plunger is when it's released. Yeah, I don't think a bump stop is necessary because the plunger itself is a pretty good bump stop, and time will tell. But I'm sure there will be improvements over time. There always are for anything. But my goodness, let's let Jeremy ask his question.
Okay. Hey, no, I was going to say you absolutely should sell that because it's such a niche market for it. I don't know how many people run those controllers, but that's definitely something you would kind of corner the market on because nobody else is going to be making that. But I was going to say on your handle part, if you could, I don't know what slicer you're using, but if you could, where the actual handle part is, if you could tell it no layers for the top and bottom, you'd have a hollow, you'd have you'd have just the infill there and it would give some air clearance. Because like when you hold that plastic forever, it's going to be sweaty. But I mean, you could design it too if you wanted to do it with kind of a spider web kind of look on the handle just for the airflow. And then that would loosen up or lose some weight on the top when you were balancing it up. I don't know if it would still retain the strength, but just for test, that part of the handle, I would just remove the top and bottom layers and let it just do its infill part and see how it looks. It may look stupid, I don't know. But I always know the one thing I hate is solid plastic handles, but everybody sells solid plastic handles, so I can't put a fan in there or anything. It's just my hand gets sweaty and I'm fat, I guess.
No, you're right. When I'm racing for a long time, my hand definitely gets moist.
Yeah, a little clammy. Yeah.
A little clammy, yeah. So yeah, that's a good idea. I'll probably play around with it. But yeah, I mean, just basically the part that's in your hand.
Yeah.
Just see through, pretty much.
Yeah, just make it like a mesh right there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hexagons.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't need to make money, which I have that privilege, and that making money presents tax problems to deal with, which I don't want to do. So, but at the same time,
I think it's back up. I think the tax limit is back up to 6,000 or 10,000, and I don't know exactly what. I'd have to look it up, but
yeah, I guess
I don't think it's 600 anymore. Yeah.
The last I heard was 600, but yeah, so we'll find out. I mean, this year I did get a 1099 for
YouTube.
Google, the ad.
Yeah.
Freaking ad. And it wasn't even 600. But if the government gets it, then you definitely gotta make sure it's on your return. Anyway, so yeah, the other thought was, maybe I do another deal with Alan and have sell these through him, so I get store credit to spend on slot car stuff or whatever. Or just if somebody out there is like, oh my God, that's the best idea ever, I want to sell those, send me an email and maybe I'll just give you permission to be the exclusive maker retailer of Greg's awesome Carrera Wireless Plus handle adapter thing.
That needs a good acronym.
Scorpius is going to be in touch.
The other thought was, it's now that I've shown this as a thing that actually works, rather than just telling the world my idea, dollars to donuts, there's going to be somebody who does their own version in less than 6 months. And hey, they got the fancy, awesome thing. Oh, somebody else did it? I had no idea.
Yeah.
Anywho, what were you saying, Gio? I didn't hear you.
That the Scorpius is gonna be in touch.
No, he won't bother. He'll just do it.
How popular are those controllers? Because like I've never seen them other than when you show them. Like I don't.
Pretty much every Carrera digital person gets these.
Okay.
So
They
All
come
the
with-
sets now that are digital come with that one.
no, you still have to
extra.
get a set that comes with them or buy them as an accessory, but they're so affordable. You know, they're inexpensive, and pretty much the main reason I did this was because the only way to do wireless controllers for Carrera Digital that are trigger controllers, you're paying a fortune for Frankenslot wireless controllers, which are even hard to find. Or you're wired, right? You can get a Ramjet X or a True Speed that are trigger controllers, fantastic controllers, but they're wired, not wireless. And they're more expensive than the wireless controller. Don's showing off his wireless controller.
How many of them
Yeah.
you want to see, Jeremy? I got about
I-
8.
I'm
You
sure
gotta-
people have them. I was just trying to figure out like I just never seen anybody using one. I assume they do, but
Yeah, like I said, Carrera Digital
Do.
people
They
for
do.
sure love them.
Speaking of
In
thumb
Germany,
pointer
for instance,
controllers,
even like large clubs that run digital, they use that controller.
Yeah.
the
I've
thumb.
seen
See,
videos.
see, I was thinking like
Yeah.
a large club would actually go, okay, let's get real controllers in here and not mess with that. But I just didn't know where the market was for that. But if they're still using those, maybe you got something there, Greg.
I mean, some do, obviously, you know, get the Ramjet
Yeah.
X or True Speeds or whatever, or the Franken slots.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're a guy at home, you got your 6 controllers, you got your 6 wireless plus controllers, but you're longing for a trigger, call me.
Polycar
Oh,
recently developed a thumb plunge controller for their basic sets.
Yeah.
And
I had those, and I'm never gonna encourage people to use those. I will do
now there's
absolutely anything
I
not
think
to encourage people.
I'm not sure about the one you're referring to, but I know there's a brand new one that's not yet released. It's in the pipeline. So
Is
I
it still
think the
a-
issue, whatever the issue was, has been identified and there's an attempt to rectify, and it's actually got a curved action to replicate the curvature that the curved path that your thumb naturally takes, which made it feel remarkably usable compared to any other thumb plunge controller I've ever personally had in hand. And I can't say anything for the Carrera because I don't think I've ever tried that one. But the new Polycar one felt like if you're gonna use your thumb, this is probably as good as it gets in a set. But that was a pre-production prototype that I saw at Slot Festival.
Well, hopefully
This
we'll get more
this would be
information
this would be a good spot for you to try the eBay international free shipping too, because a lot of the customers would be European, and that makes it so much easier. Like there's no paperwork. You just ship to a local US spot, they send it over there.
Yeah.
That might maybe be a way to dip your toes into the international shipping again without the hassle.
I've never felt it being much of a hassle other than for the EU with the stupid codes and stuff. But yeah, the other thing that bugs me is they recently came out with the update to their wireless controller called Wireless 2.0, which uses a different wireless technology, so they're not even compatible, you know, forward or reverse compatible. And the shape is different. It's still a plunger with a button, but it's got this wholly curved shape that it won't stand up on its own. So there's nothing to hold it. You just put it down on your track laying down or whatever. But it doesn't have the same side panel thing for me to make use of. Like I was thinking, well, if I could just adapt this to work on that controller, but I can't. I don't. I'd have to get one to tear it apart and see if that's even possible, but I don't think it will be. And you have to get it takes a battery instead of being rechargeable, which is only accessible on the backside, which would have to be more or less covered up. under here. Anyways, I'm just bitching and moaning now, so I'm done with this. Let's move on to other things. Gio, did you have a show and tell?
No, I thought we were doing club corner, but
Not yet. Just to be sure, does anybody else have anything they want to show and tell?
Hey, give me one quick thing. Wait, give me one
Okay.
quick thing. Have you guys seen these little digital you do measuring with it, like you roll it down the track and it gives you how many inches you're going. So anyway, when you want to measure actual how far your track is around, this one will do it a little more accurately, and they're only like $5-10. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Another tool I found.
I haven't actually seen the digital version. I remember
But you
the
don't
old-
know what its name is, no?
I'll look it up real quick and put it in the chat notes, or in the chat
Digital
section. It's like
linkometer.
digital ruler or something. I mean, there's thousands of them now, like on Amazon, eBay, whatever, but it's just a digital ruler. You can do it in inches or millimeters or whatever, and just roll it along the lane. And now you know exactly how many feet you go.
So what are
If
they
you're
called?
trying to mark it up.
Are
What
you
do they call
designing a
it?
trailer so it fits in the trailer and you tow it behind a car?
What are they called, Wayne?
Well, for me, it's a map wheel because
Map
I've used similar things for reading the actual distance of a curly road on a map. But that's at 1 to 50,000 scale or whatever. That's measuring at 1-to-1 scale. I've never seen one. I've seen one built in a pen that scale where the wheel is the width of a pen. It's probably 3 or 4 millimeters diameter.
Yeah, just look up electronic digital tape measure. And I mean, there's all different ones with different size wheels and whatever you need. But
Do you think
I was just thinking, because I was going to put, you know how you can do lane sections when you have, 30 sections of your track. This would be perfect for it because then you know exactly right where to mark it off as you go.
you don't think if you rolled one of those along a certain part of your body, you might actually add an inch or so?
I'm not rolling it along any part of my body, Wayne. Now stop it. What is wrong with you? All right, Gio, you go.
All
could
right,
mount
no,
it behind-
I think Mr. Weber has something he wants to show and tell.
Yeah, well, the digital wheel there, you could mount it behind one of those Carrera track cleaning
Trucks.
trucks.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, this is slightly sideways, but I got a couple of books. I don't think I talked about these yet. A couple of used books. There's this one by Dave Friedman.
I think you showed that one a few weeks ago. Is that?
Oh, did I?
different?
Okay.
You showed I remember you showed a Trans Am book, but I don't remember if it was the same one. So if you
Okay.
had a different.
The other is
I think it was.
Yeah.
is Richard Falconer, who is actually a Brit, I believe. His book on chaparral.
Yeah, I have that book, John. It's excellent. It's a really good book.
Probably the best car book. I mean, highly specific, of course, that I've ever seen. It's really,
Yeah, and
really,
the forward I think was done by Denny Holm. That's how old
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Called them the enemy.
Yeah, that's right.
The enemy was chaparral. They were afraid of chaparral. McLaren was. But anyway, that's all I had. That's it.
so why do you think it's the best book about car that you ever seen?
No, about chaparrals.
It's nothing but chaparrals, and there aren't that many chaparrals, for one thing. So
Yeah,
a lot of people,
there's a whole section about the Cox agreement in there as well. It's really kind of cool.
yeah. I mean, I haven't read the whole thing, but
Oh, sorry. Oh, I didn't mean to give it away. Sorry.
you can pick it up and go anywhere. I can pick it up and just thumb to a spot and start reading. And to me, it's really fascinating. There's just anywhere you go in the book is really fascinating. I think.
It also details the cars really well as well, like the whole sort of evolution of the chaparrals. Yeah.
A lot of people think that they that race cars back then were like road cars. There was some factory that was just churning them out, and a lot of people think that there were dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of chaparrals, and there were only like 7.
Yeah, they kept reusing the chassis. Plus, they did a lot of work for both Firestone and for General Motors.
Right.
Does it cover the non-chaparral like the Camaro and the cars that chaparral ran but weren't technically chaparral?
No,
no.
primarily these were the cars that were built specifically
Yeah.
by Jim Hall at in Midland, Texas.
Doesn't have the Indy car in it. It doesn't have the Trans Am car in it.
No, it was just about like the
Yeah.
USRRC and
Yeah,
Can-Am. Yeah.
All right.
You know,
Let's move along from
okay,
that
that's it.
and go to Club Corner. So, Gio, talk about racing.
Before talking about racing, a kind of a small update on upcoming car for the 24 hours of Paul Ricard. Wayne has seen these updates. I mean, yeah, I'm not going as quickly as I would like because of the finding the right chrome. So this is the, let's say, the best that I could do at the moment to have something that I can then put decals on. Yeah, maybe the picture do not make really justice to it, but so this is just I'm not even done yet. So what you see here, then I already done it, but in a picture, so I've kind of clear coded, and then I will need to use smoke paint to do the fading part of around this area and around these areas. And this is one car. I have another body that I will still need to chrome it, let's say. Anyway, so this is where I am at the moment. And I need to put my act together, actually.
Gio, did you investigate? I don't know how many dozen there are. Probably at least a dozen. The Gundam guys, the Gundam hobby has these lots of chrome, various kinds of chrome paints available. Alcad, I think, is one of the brands. There's just tons of them, lots and lots of them.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, yes, I've been kind of try to find the best solution that, again, I mean, there are a couple of options, like the Chrome pen, for instance, Molotov, and then there is also one from Japan. Sorry, I think it's on Chinese brand, the Asp or something like that, and they are excellent. The only problem is that you cannot tie. If you look at them, basically, the chrome effect, the mirror effect will go away. So as I said, I need to. I mean, I don't care about touching them, but I should care, right? Because before these cars, I mean, before the car gets onto the track, I will need to put decals on it with also the sectors liquid, which basically I already know that kind of mess the chrome because I've done some other experiments. Plus, I will need to put, for instance, LEDs as well. So, which again, I need to handle the body. So, if there is no good coverage
Gio,
of a clear.
if you do plan to use Molotov, because I used it on my little Crusader, the Crusader 101 RC car. If you actually spray clear lacquer over the Molotov once you've done it, you can handle it all you want.
Yeah, but basically the problem is that I'm gonna lose then the mirror effect.
No, not really. No, not with a clear lacquer. As long as you use a high gloss clear lacquer, it'll be great.
Okay,
Give it
so
a try. No, you know what? Don't just try it on something and see if it meets your what you've got in mind. But I was certainly happy with the results, so I just thought I'd suggest it.
I will. And with a clear lacquer, I mean, what do you have any specific brand or something?
I used, oh gosh, it was like an automotive. I got it actually from an automotive paint supplier.
Okay, so it's something pretty harsh then. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, this stuff is really hot. Yeah.
Because, for instance, one of the things that I've been using is micro scale clear, which is basically it's basically water based, and it's almost like the clear, the floor polish stuff clear, which
Oh yeah. And you
yeah,
can't use
so
that with if it's acrylic based, you can't use it with Molotov because it'll dissolve it. So you try to use dissimilar chemistries because Molotov, you know, is basically an ink. So you don't want to use something that's lacquer based if you can.
yeah. Okay, so now basically I will move on to club corner. And the so this was a race this week. And for this week, I got a new version of the firmware, where basically the modification was to change the voltage cut threshold that they have when basically they want to cut power to the chip for sending a false lap. So the previous one that I tested was I had two versions, 2.4 volts and 2.1 volts. And we did the one that was the best between the two in terms of cutting short laps was the 2.4 volts. But the problem was that we had distances where we lost laps when the car were going over the start finish line. And so basically, I suggest to have something in between those two thresholds. So I got another one that is sitting between the two, and it seems that basically it's working properly. So we didn't have any short laps, and all laps were counted. So I checked also with the videos evidence afterwards. And the other thing is that also in this this race, basically I removed all the old sensor and I put all the all sensors that I know cause trouble. So was basically worst type scenario for all cars with all bad old sensors, right? And basically no short laps or ghost pit mode. So this is the the news. I think they should be releasing it. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna do for a large, maybe a large a group with a larger truck. Should be interesting. Okay, so this is the lineup for the race night. So 5 cars, and so we start basically with the practice session, and then we moved on to qualify, which will run at almost full power. Again, 5 minutes, and these are basically the results. So I got to one of the best laps starting. I mean, towards the end of the session. Before I was going to like a 5.7 or high 5.7. The other news is Colin, that has been coming now for 3 weeks, I think, now managed to go below the 5.9 barrier. And with this car, that is not, I would say, the best setup car that I have. It's for newbies. I mean, there is a lot of lead inside it, but not to make it stable. And then Jan was with the sideways McLaren, basically was behind him because basically he changed tires and he has a lot of rubber, so less magnetic power for the moment. So then we moved on to race 1. So basically, because my tires and Alex tires are pretty low at the beginning of the race when we have a full tank and limited the power, so we need to keep the car going at full throttle. But both Colin and Jan, because they have less magnetic traction, they go much quicker than us. And so basically, at the beginning of the first half of the race, they were kind of 1 lap or so in front of us, me and Alex. And then we catch up once our fuel start going down. And so basically, you can see a race was pretty close. Alex's car is kind of back into the mix, so it's very it was very close to me. And then at the end, basically, there was very close race between Colin and Jan. So basically, Jan just managed to be on top of him, I think, during the last part with just I think maybe in less than a lap. Then we moved to race 2, so these lineup, and then basically similar story. So Colin and Jan, they are much quicker off at the beginning of the race, and then Alex and I tried to catching them up, and this was the result. And so again, Alex getting very close, and also between Colin and Jan, I mean, there is not much there. So, ideal racing, basically. I mean, you don't know if you're gonna win or lose until basically the end. For race 3, basically, I'm not going to repeat a similar situation. This time, I think Alex has a bit of problem in the pit, so that's why he was a bit behind me. And here there was a bit of falafel between Jan and Colin. Seems, I mean, I checked basically afterwards the video, and actually Colin was in front of Jan, so the number 4 should be, I mean, 8 Racing should be on top of 65 red line. And the problem there was that sometimes in also you can see this in chrono when 2 cars are within the same lap and they are passing the start finish line close to each other. Basically, the RMS switch between the 2 positions keep swapping until, I mean, every time one car passes them, there is a kind of goes a flip flop between the 2. And by the time, basically, when the time was over, then it was a case that Jan's was registered as ID was registered as a 3rd. So that's how basically the system stopped the race, and that's kind of the results. But actually, it should be the other way around. There was no missed lap or anything. It was just this strange behavior that sometimes happens with the protocol. So then, but so I was. When we were going for the last race, which is a reverse grid, then Colin was more than happy to concede a 3rd place to Jan so that he could start as the second spot on the grid. So here you have Colin's car next to Mike. And again, this was again another very good close race. Again, between me and Alex, not much also in terms of fastest lap. So as I said, this car is basically coming up, being again competitive. And again, this I think is related to the size of the tires. And then again, close fight between Colin and Jan. So overall, I mean, again, so racing is really getting has been very interesting for the last couple of months. And now that we have also a good firmware, I think it's going to be even more interesting. And especially I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen in the 24 hours race that is coming up. That's from New Zealand.
All right, thank you, Gio. Dewan, are you ready?
I suppose so. I missed the last couple of races for our club, but we just had this weekend a team race, and I think I'm showing it. I don't know, is it showing it? It doesn't. My screen disappears on me. I don't know if this.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, well, anyway, it was at Big Lou's Raceway in Culver City, which is 180 foot. It's got electric 4-lane track, and got a lot of little hairpins and things like that are in there that makes it pretty challenging, but it's a nice little track. And our team race, we have pretty much IROC cars, and so we have the lineup. It was for Racer Sideways is what we used, and the cars are really nice. They really hooked up good. So these are the provided cars. Everyone, the cars stay in the same specific lane, and each of the drivers. It's a 3-hour race, so we do 45 minutes in each of the 4 lanes, and the car stand. So these are the primary cars, and then those are the backup cars in case something happens to one of the primary cars. But everyone in general, each team races 45 minutes in each of the 4 lanes. And so you can kind of see the layout and the action going on there. We had 11 races? No, gosh, it'll be 15 races. 15 races. So we had one person that was being shared between 2 teams, and the race turned out. I did videotape the whole thing. I just haven't posted it yet, but nonetheless, there it is. So the team that I was on was with Team Baines with Walter Babahuli and Tim Weston, myself, and overall we finished second. The first place team was Tom Giesi's team. Chris Sukimoto, Tom Giesi, Dominic Santa, and David Reynolds. And these are the total laps for the all. That doesn't seem right. You know what? This must be an intermediate lap count. No, no, they have the lap counts here. Okay, I just didn't. I was looking at the things here. Okay, but yeah, these were the total lap counts. The Team Geezy won with 13 laps ahead of everyone else, and our second, we were just off by three. We finished 3/10 of a lap ahead of the third place team, which is Eddie Shore's team, and there was a little bit of a mishap in the for the fourth team. We had some uh, mechanical issues. I think they had some issues with it, caused them to lose a little bit of laps. But it was a pretty decent race. Matter of fact, the very first heat, after the first 45 minutes, everyone was on the same exact lap. I think it's right. Yeah, it's up there. I forgot which lane. Well, it depended on what lane you would see them in, but we were all on the same lap, 165 laps for um, all four teams. So it was, pretty challenging. And so that's pretty much this last weekend. This weekend they'll be racing at Stevens Far Out Raceway. Unfortunately, I have a lot of personal things going on. I won't be making it down there, so I really hate missing it because I love his track. But that's going to be a nice little race. And, we'll get a recap. I'll be able to recap it, but nonetheless, that's about it for today. Go ahead and stop my share.
All right, good racing.
Absolutely fun. My
Ready,
first time
ready,
back after being
after being
yeah.
in recovery.
Yep. So all right.
All right, thanks, Dewan. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, we did some oval racing this last weekend.
Ooh, nice cars.
Oval is a little different. This is a 24. It's a short oval. It's about 6 by 16, I think. It is 24 scale lane spacing roughly, so the 32nd scale cars don't have too much problems, especially the Legends, because they're smaller than the average car, so to speak. The track was built for Speed World, Sidewinder Raceway in Sacramento, and that's where it was for quite a while. And he had some ideas on it. And you can see the lane 1 and lane 2, where he tried to reduce the advantage the inside lane had by putting it's not really a squeeze, it's more of a come together because the lane spacing is wide enough. They just come together, they don't squeeze each other technically. And those are the NASCAR IROC cars that we ran last. And the color is brown. It's to emulate dirt. When they ran this track at Sidewinder, they used to put cocoa powder on it to emulate dirt. And they would roll a dice, and whatever the number of the dice came up determined how much cocoa powder they put on, more or less. So that's where this track came from. It's a fun track, and it's different because you kind of have to brake a little bit here on lane 1 because it's not a fluid corner. So that it doesn't eliminate the lane 1 advantage, but it reduces it a bit. So it's a different kind of oval. It's not just totally symmetrical. We ran Legends, which we'll talk about another topic in just a second, but we had 7 cars, but we put 8 on the grid just to make it look good. So the Legends we run with we allow the rear axle, the motor, and the pinion to be changed, although it's the stock ratio. You can change the wheels and you can change the guide. The tires remain stock, and they're easy to tech because they've got the Goodrich written on them, so we don't have the tech issue like sometimes we do with tires where you can't tell what they are. Bombers, this came out of Sidewinder too. These are Scale Electric's Trans Am cars, more or less. The Jaguar was a Trans Am car. You can lower them, you can put big fat tires on them, and you're required to put a 35K motor in them. That's the spec motor, and it's way more power. And the idea was to introduce wheel spin and make them hard to drive. And they're smooth because we're running on rubber tires, so they're not hard to drive in that respect, but they're hard to drive because they're way overpowered.
I like how you can take the glass out.
Yeah, you can do that too. So it was designed to look like Saturday Night Bombers. You'd see it a short track and put way more power in it than anybody can handle. And at Sidewinder, you were required to run a spec controller, which didn't have chokes in them. Now we're running our own controllers, so you can choke them a little bit to help control the wheel spin. But when Sidewinder ran, you could buy your own controller, but it was a spec Professor Motor controller. The next class was the sprint cars, and this is something somewhat new. I think these are all Sprint Plus cars, but they're all over the place, and we haven't had any consistent rules because we haven't run these too often. So some of them had different motors of them, so some of them have different tires on them and so forth. But they're fun cars. The Sprint Plus comes like the one in the lower left. Actually, it doesn't. They don't have the Sprint Pluses don't have cages or Nerf bars or anything on them, so all the cages and things are custom made. So they look really cool. They drive with, this is on foam tires. So on a track that's rubbered in, there's not a lot of grip. It's nice and smooth, but there's not a lot of grip. And so they slide and their tail out, put it on the outside lane, put it on the cushion and run it around. So they're fun to run. In the end, I won Legends with my car. I had a borrowed car and Mario finished first in the Bombers. George's car was really quick. Again, it's a fun class to run. And in the sprints, I had a borrowed car too, which it was okay. Just put it that way. And there's our podium with the podium. We don't have podium girls. We have podium gnomes. George's car is getting pissed on. Paul's car is getting slept on, and Mario's drinking. And here's my legend. And you can see what we're allowed to do in them. They change gears and axles and wheels, but stock tires, change the guide. It does have to be the stock gear ratio, and you can see the ballast that I've added to it. And you also notice, oops, I had.
What was all that on the front axle? I'm looking at is that just
that blue tack stuff that people like to use to put in weight?
Okay.
I don't use it anymore because it gets over everything. So it's just leftover residue from some crap I had on the car.
Okay.
Not a performance thing. And if you notice, my bumper's broken because that just happens. So as you've seen in the past few weeks, I have a new product.
Yeah.
And I'm not real happy with the way these look because you can buy the stock ones for $5, so it's not a big deal. But I just printed my own. And we are going to start racing these. It looks like at Motown. Motown just got a supply of cars in to sell, and it's going to be interesting to see them run on a 24 scale track. They run good so far, the people that have run them. And then we also may at Motown build a short plastic oval. And my idea for that is this will be a 4-lane when we build it. But my idea is to do a convoluted oval where in going into the first corner, you have a decreasing radius. You have a kink to the right in the middle straight. And then on the far side, the turn 3 is an increasing radius back on the main straight. And again, the idea here is to reduce the lane, the differentiation in the lanes between the inside and the outside, the little kink to the right. So we'll see how that goes. So we've got Pioneer Legends coming, and it looks like we're going to be racing them a lot more. We've also had Bob Scott, the track builder, put in 2 wood 24 scale ovals in Sacramento in the past week, one of which I know is going to be raced on, and the other one I'm not sure if it's going to be a racetrack or it's just a fun track for the guy that bought it. But so we have more oval tracks coming in, and it can be a lot of fun, especially the Legends. There's not a lot of body rubbing because they're so small and short. You can take somebody out, but you have to work at it. So oval racing can be a lot of fun.
All righty. Good stuff, sir. Anybody else want to do show and tell? Club corner? Otherwise, the floor is open. Mike, you put your hand up. What's up?
I got some racing stuff from Monday.
Oh, yeah.
Let me share. Come on. Hopefully I got these in the right order. Okay. Only had one guy show up. Actually, one of the newbies from last week. And as you can see, he did not fare well against the ghost cars. It was the first time he'd used ghost cars, so it was interesting. He had a little bit of problems, but it was still great fun overall. What we raced, oh, that's the second race. First race was Trans Am cars.
And you know that.
Sorry. What's okay? And the second race was Porsches, and that one was much closer. It seesawed back and forth. I gave Greg, in both cases, a quite large fuel advantage and a larger tank besides. So, and I took the slowest car out of the 4 that I set up. So both times I beat him with the slowest car and a fuel deficit. And so I had to work at it. It wasn't just a simple thing. And I had to stay on track, which didn't happen all the time. But the first one was particularly difficult because the car I had is not the best of my cars. It's the worst. And it's difficult to drive. So keeping it in the slot and beating him was difficult. So here's the cars. First one, the Dodge Challenger Scale Electric, and he had a Pioneer Ford notchback Mustang, which is my fastest Trans Am car. And in the second race, I did Porsches of the mid 60s, and I'll tell you that the Carrera 6 that Greg used in second place, the 58 there, is one of my best slot cars, and he really liked that car. So he had a very, very good race for him. He's improving a lot. In the second half of the race, he didn't fall off that much. And so it made it quite competitive. So it was fun. We had a great time. And now he has some experience with ghost cars and stuff. So next time he comes up, maybe we can have some more fun with that and have 5 cars on the track instead of just the 4 of us. Unfortunately, he's about to embark on the RAAM, which is the Race Across America on a bicycle, and he starts next week on that. So I won't be seeing him for quite a while. He expects it to take 8 or 10 days, and it's I can't remember the mileage on it, but it's a lot of climbing and a lot of days in the saddle, and it's self-supported. So he's carrying all his gear and sleeping gear and everything along with him. So pretty amazing thing. He used to own the bike shop that I was a customer of for quite a while. So I was a bike shop junkie with him. So anyway, that's all I got. It was a good, fun time. All right, so stop sharing. All right, come on, finger.
I can stop it.
There you go.
You. I win. All right, thank you, sir. Floor is open. I was gonna show, or I can show a thing that Jeremy found, unless Jeremy wants to show it.
No, go ahead. I don't know what we're talking about.
Well, the thing that you showed us earlier, that you sent a link to in the chat. So let me share that. And
oh, now I know what you're talking about.
yeah, so you found this. How did you find it? Were you just shopping around or what?
Yeah, I was just shopping around for something and that came up as one of the results, and I was like, "What the hell is that? An Inco? What?" So it piqued my interest.
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit before we went live, and my best guess is that this is a creation of Professor Motor themselves, having a large stock of Ninco track as well as the Ninco lane changer hardware that they basically special ordered from the factory for people to put oxygen electronics into. Now they've decided to make a set where you get what looks like a fairly sizable Daytona style track with pit lane and lane changers and apparently 8 cars. So you're getting 8 SCP-3s, 8 Scalextric cars, it says, the dongle, 8 chips to go into them, and all the track. Looks like even got borders for some of them, if not most of it. Basically a pretty well kitted out Oxygen digital starter kit, except it's Ninco track rather than Polycar track because they're presumably trying to get rid of Polycar stuff. $2,500 is what it's listed at. I'm sure the shipping is not cheap either, and I doubt they're going to do free shipping on that. But hey, if there's anybody out there that wants to just drop a bundle and start off with a bang, there you go. Call up Professor Motor and get yourself a big old Oxygen track ready to run, presumably.
So these are all Scalextric's car, right?
It did say Scalextric, yeah, Scalextric cars.
So
Yeah.
if it's supposed to be such a limited inventory of this Ninco track, why does he have so much of it? Since that was kind of the crux for most people getting out of the Ninco tracks.
People got out of Ninco Digital because Ninco stopped supporting it as a product. Oxygen people had been getting Ninco Digital track to pull the Ninco electronics out of and put Oxygen in because Polycar had not yet created their track with lane changers. So that was pretty much the only option other than Scalextric. And Ninco is wider, so a little bit more room between the cars and has the texture that a lot of people like. You know, I'm sure there are reasons for choosing Ninco, but
No. I think the question was how comes that they have so much Ningo stocks, given that basically has been out of the market for so long.
Yeah,
I have
and
no idea.
everyone is abandoning the Ninco track because it's not available, and they seem to have it.
Maybe they got a bunch of used track from people or something. I mean, I know the reason they have all the lane changers is because they placed a special order with the factory to get the lane changers and the pit lane. So basically all the digital Ninco stuff, they got a pile of it because they ordered it for people to buy for Polycar functionality, for Oxygen use. But yeah, you know, maybe they ordered track too. I don't know. Maybe they decided to order track.
If you go around their site looking at what track pieces they've got listed, they only have the most common ones.
Yeah.
All the rare stuff is no longer there. So the support for the track pieces is not there. You won't get R4s, R5s, things like that. In fact, that was the case last time I looked.
There we go. R4. This set
in there.
is R4s.
Yeah. It's
So, yeah.
even though they have what they have, I know that some of the UK people who organise digital races on Ninco are still pulling their hair with the lack of availability.
Well, maybe they ordered up a bunch from the factory like they did with the lane changers. I don't know. It's pure speculation. If anybody from Professor Motor wants to tell the world where they managed to find, maybe there's a warehouse that they discovered that had boxes and boxes of Ninco track or something. They bought out some old hobby store that had lots of Ninco sitting around.
Jay Leno Ninco garage.
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine, but it's a thing.
It wouldn't be.
Yeah, and the other thing is also like this could be just a one-off. I mean, or do they have several?
It says pre-order. Yeah, it says pre-order.
It wouldn't be unusual for a company that knows they're going to go out of business to dump off.
Mike is on fire. Mike is on fire.
Yeah,
sure.
It could be a supplier.
No, Mike had smoke coming up because he's doing some soldering or something.
Jesus, man. What are you doing, man? Are you melting tungsten or what the heck is that?
Putting a hole in a chassis.
No, just tinning the soldering iron.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, maybe Professor Motor, because it's a pre-order, maybe they're putting in an order for more track.
It sounds like we've got this stuff in stock. Let's put this $2,500 package together. If anybody does, I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad value because put it in a box and send it. If they
Yeah.
don't, we haven't lost anything.
Yeah. Yep.
And it probably, I don't think it specifies what cars, so they could probably pick and choose cars that are not selling or sitting on the shelf and put them in, package them in that. I'm not saying they're doing that. I'm just speculating.
It
I
could
think that's
well
the
be
most
that way.
likely thing.
I mean, to
Anywho,
be honest, it's not a bad price. I mean, if I had to start now, I think, and I lived in the US, that would be a good thing. I mean, you get the seal-up counter, the dongle. I mean, 8 controllers, SP3 actually. So
5
cheap.
double lane changers. That's
And the
10.
pizza lane as well.
That's let's see, 10 of the oxygen electronics. And what do those run? Like, let's say $50 for the oxygen lane change set.
That's a good value.
So that's $500 worth of lane changer stuff.
20% of
And
$20
$500 worth of
price.
chips.
You've got nearly 1,000 in your SCP3s.
Oh yeah, not including the track. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, that's a good deal.
It's a
Without
good
even-
deal. Yeah. Especially if an Ingo is also all new track, right? That is not a second hand. You know, I'm not talking about lane changes. I'm talking about all the other pieces. If they're not, also new. Because for whatever you want to say, I mean, Ningo new is not that bad.
Yeah, they don't say anything about pre-owned or anything or reconditioned or anything. So
Well,
presumably,
it might have been just stock that never got sold.
Yeah.
that's the main speculation.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
they are
'cause,
Professor Motor for crying out loud. If anybody,
Well, yeah,
knows
it's like, yeah, it's sort of like, why you have fish soup on Monday, because you didn't really sell a lot on the weekend. It's
yep.
Yeah,
All
they
right.
may see the handwriting on the wall. They will know if Polycar now is the predominant sales in terms of plastic track. And if it is, let's just package all the Ningo and try to get rid of it in a big package at one time.
Yeah. If you put the numbers together, I wouldn't be surprised if the regular track is essentially free with all the other stuff in there.
And it's a one shot. If somebody buys that, one big box, ship all this stuff out.
Hey, all of our stock is gone. Sold out.
High five.
Okay.
All right. Anybody got anything else?
Well, prior to our going live with today's Zoom session, there was live streaming by Dave Kennedy on Slot Car News with a visit by Mr. Trax.
Wow.
It was very interesting. I was actually viewing it right when we were going into our session, but they have a nice little modular layout that gives you tremendous amount of layout options and having a equivalent of a routed track. So it's yeah. Anyway, so I thought it was pretty nice and
I was
interesting
trying to pull up the
for people to check
video.
out. Yeah,
And an
yeah.
ad popped up. And
Are
then-
they, are they wood panels that all have connections in the same location so that you can lay out wood
Yes.
panels in there? Different, yeah.
I have a stack of it. I don't have legs that flip out easily to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's,
Yeah, so it's really, really interesting
Australian company.
concept. Yes, but they're setting up a U.S. distribution. They're setting up U.S. distribution.
There's
Did you see how it works?
manufacturing too. They talked about that it's going to be manufactured in the United States.
Yes, and it's digital and analog simultaneously, or not simultaneously. I'm sorry, but switchable. It's phenomenal, and the pricing was very well. It sounded very compelling. That's the different pieces that you see right there. You can just kind of like get the little cards right there and design your own track and add to it and do all kind of wonderful things.
It reminds me a lot of a HO tub track.
Yeah,
that particular one, yeah.
Jeremy, get your stuff out.
Yeah, they've been around for a while, but
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
I mean,
Yeah,
Jeremy's
that's-
that's not
those are
Jeremy's
$2,000.
market. Jeremy's not targeting that market.
I wonder what the prices do they talk about?
The
Because
cheap one's $2,000.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
not my market.
That's why I said, get your stuff on the market.
Oh, okay.
It's a separate market. He's not building turnkey solutions. He's building DIY. He's doing DIY solutions.
When
Right,
whoever
right, right.
can be the
He's doing the half the why.
whoever's going to be the distributor for Mr. Track, as soon as they start advertising, you need to be ready to hit that, follow
Yeah.
up that
Can't afford
advertising.
Mr. Tracks? Buy this.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says it's gonna be some.
can
links
call
in
it
the
Mistrack.
Minneapolis.
Mr.
Biz,
Oh, boy.
But yeah, so it's pretty modular. He says he has one set out there that has 14 tables
Yeah.
integrated, so it's pretty flexible.
just Google MR, what is it, MR Tracks, and you'll find the website that sells them in Australia, and the information's there.
Yeah, his distribution point is supposed to be someplace in Indianapolis. Is what it's all in the works right now, so it's not. But it was very interesting. I thought it was
Oh yeah.
something to be noted.
To confuse things, Mr. Tracks is sold through a website called MrSlotCar.com. So this is the Australia's Mr. Slot Car, and this is actually Mr. Slot Car, but it's the URL is mrslotcar.com.
Right.
Not to be
Be
confused
associated with
Mosaic
MR Slot
Racing.
Car in Canada.
Exactly.
There
Not to
must be
Mosaic-
somebody who needs some serious write-offs for the next couple of fiscal years.
All right.
Speaking
All
of
right.
racing, if anybody's interested in going to the Slotted Nationals, there's only a couple spots left, Courtney. So it's almost sold out.
Yeah, my window has closed on the Slotted Nationals, unfortunately. I am sad. I am weeping inside. You just can't see it. This is a mask.
He's masking.
Wow. I had a lunch ticket waiting for you, Courtney.
You're signed up, right, Dwan?
Yeah, I signed up.
Okay, yeah, because like I said, as of yesterday, there were only 3 spots left out of 75.
Wow.
All right, I'm going to end the live stream. So let me get to the clicking point before you start waving. All right, until next week, everybody wave bye. Bye. Ending. Says it's over. We'll assume that it's over.
So we can
Wow,
swear.
Yeah.